I wanted to talk to you guys this morning, and I just want to be real. I'm the type of person. When I was younger, I mean, I could really kick against authority. I didn't like it, and I was always felt like it was against me, you know. And it's just one of those things where I could be pretty disagreeable. I remember one time Brian and my family, we went to the Poconos together, and do you remember that restaurant we went to? And it took hours to get our food.
Yes.
And I remember just being so upset with this service that I grabbed Nicole's pork barbecue sandwich because it was wrong, and it took like an hour and a half to get it. And I went right back into the kitchen and I said, "Fix this," you know. And I feel like, you know, as an American, I have rights and all this other stuff. But the truth of the matter is I remember I said this a few weeks ago. You can have freedoms and rights today, and then a group of people can get into a room and decide that you don't have them anymore. And I know a lot of us are experiencing that. And at the same time, there's some certain things that I want to share with you guys this morning that are true, not opinion. Oh, this is my opinion of what's going on. They're just things that are true. When I was struggling at the beginning of the week with everything that was going on, I remember I was getting angry and I was getting frustrated with authority. And then the Lord began to speak to me, and he said, you know, why are you so angry? And I said, well, because, you know, this stuff. And I remember he said to me, he said, you're not casting all your anxiety onto me. And if you don't cast your anxiety onto me, it'll turn into anger. And then once it turns into anger, you have to find a target. And then once you find a target, your anger then turns into sin. And I was just humbled by that. And I remember just, you know, calming down and just saying, you know, God, this is what I'm concerned with. I'm concerned with this. I'm concerned with this. I'm concerned with that. And then it was just gone. And then I didn't have anxiety anymore, and I didn't really have any anger anymore. And some other things that he taught me, he goes, this morning, he goes, is the government and people and authorities, are they for you? And I had to think about that. I was like, well, I guess that depends. You can't be for somebody unless you have Christ, unless you have the love of God. The Bible says that people sin, or people who do not love do not have the love of God. So if somebody doesn't have the love of God, it's not possible for them to put you first. It's just not going to happen. And again, when you begin to view life through that lens, listen to me, when you begin to view life through this lens that either people have God, they're participating in a relationship, and they're loving people, or they're not, you can't really take things personal. People who are in authority aren't personally trying to come against you and make your life suffer, right? They may be doing what's best for the country, or they might be doing what's best for themselves. Like we don't know, and that's okay. Because the truth is, if they don't have God, then they don't have love, therefore it's not personal. And so then we shouldn't take it personal. And this morning, I want to read to you a story that just struck me so hard, because it's about a man who figured out how to come under authority. If I could just share this with you, and this is sad, and this is something the church needs to repent from. How much influence does the church have right now in this season? In the world, how much authority does it have? If it doesn't have any, it's because we haven't demonstrated power. And because we haven't demonstrated power, therefore, that we're not given authority in the world. And it's amazing, because in the story of Daniel didn't go around and he didn't preach people the way they should live in Babylon. He demonstrated power, and he was given authority. So I want everybody to know that opinions are not something that we are, we can have them, but there's no power in opinion. Power is in power. And whether or not you can demonstrate it. Power is in wisdom that's given from God. Power is given by God to you because your heart is about God and not a situation. And right now, during this time, we have to take our heart and aim it at God and say, God, my heart is for you. I'm not of this world. This world that we live in is not my resting place and isn't the end of the story. My heart's for you. What are you doing right now? How can I love you well right now during this time? When we do that, then God can empower us, right, to do his will on the earth. And when people see us doing his will on the earth, especially supernaturally, then they want to know where this power came from. They want to know where this authority came from. And so if we don't have a say, and that can be frustrating, not having a say, it's because we haven't demonstrated power. Trust me, if the church at large had been healing people these last 10 years, if Governor Wolf had some relative that was healed in a church, right? Or he himself had been healed in a church, or people brought the sick to the church to actually be healed because that's what we were known for. The church would have a lot to say. We'd have tents set up in our church parking lots to heal the sick. But that's not what we're known for. So the government isn't partnered with us. And that's a judgment upon us, because judgment begins in the house of the Lord. And it's like, okay, so now what? Well, I want to read to you the story of Daniel, and I just want to show you what Daniel did in his life. This is Daniel 1, verse 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, along with some of the vessels of the house of God, and he brought them to the land of Shinar, the house of his God. And he brought the vessels into the treasury of his God. So if you guys want to understand, this is in the 5th century BC. And what's actually going on here is you have Israel and Judah. They were a divided kingdom. And by the way, a divided kingdom cannot stand. I know the COVID virus is a big deal, but we've never been so divided as a country. We will not stand as a country if we continue this division. And what ended up happening was Israel got taken captive and they had to go to Assyria, right? And Judah was left. And the people of Judah said this: we were left because we were right. That's why we're not in captivity, and we have the temple. And they began to put their confidence in the temple of the Lord instead of in the Lord, right? And I believe that this time is also showing us where we actually put our confidence. And so anyway, Babylon came, and guys, if you could understand how disgraceful it is for a foreign king who worships demons to come in and take your temple down piece by piece, and then take your vessels out of your temple and use them as party platters in his own kingdom. It is the most disgraceful thing, the most dishonoring thing you could ever experience as a Jew. It's why Hezekiah was so upset and just wept when he heard about what was going on. So you end up having this terrible, terrible thing that happened. And Daniel's about to experience some hard things. Then the king ordered Ashpenaz, the chief of his officials. That original term is actually the chief of the eunuchs. How many of you know that if your chief who's over you is the chief of the eunuchs, you most likely are a eunuch? To bring in some of the sons of Israel, who, including some of the royal family and the nobles, youths in whom was no defect, who were good-looking, showing intelligence in every branch of wisdom, endowed with understanding and discerning knowledge, and who had the ability for serving in the king's court. And he ordered him to teach them the literature and the language of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed for them a daily ration from the king's choice food of wine, which he drank. Now, this is what happened to Daniel. He's in the company of foreigners and has to eat at their table, which makes you unclean. He had to be most likely castrated. The reason I say that is because Daniel didn't end up having children, or they're not recorded in here. He had to be under the roof of a pagan. There was open demon worship going around right in front of him. Child sacrifice happening right in front of him. He was being trained to be a diviner or a magician, right? To be on the king's court. He's being trained to actually practice witchcraft. And not only did they take away his God-honoring name, they gave him a god, like another god's name. And the last thing, his temple was sacked, and he was a part of the royal family in Jerusalem. And now he's on this circus of just collected foreigners who the king's going to come for counsel on occasion. I don't know about you, but if I was castrated, if I was taken away from my home and put in a foreign land, and my church was disgraced and torn down, I'd have some issues, and I'd be pretty angry. And I'd be pretty angry at those in authority, but that's not what it says here that he did. There was this food that was given to them. It was choice food. And can I say this? If you're sitting at the king's table, this food's brought from all over the world. And it's probably going to be the best and most delicious food. And at least you'd have that to look forward. At least you'd have mealtime to look forward to. Everything has been taken away from you except for the fact that you have an incredible, bountiful table in front of you to eat from. And I don't know about you guys, but if I was down on my luck like Daniel was, I'd be looking forward to the meals and say, I'm eating everything on the table. I don't care anymore, you know. But Daniel in the midst of not having a temple to go to, not having the priests there anymore, and not able to carry out the majority of the law, you know what his main concern is? His main concern is, how can I still be pleasing to the Lord? I don't know how he does that. I don't know how you have everything stripped from you and your eye is still focused on God, saying, how can I be pleasing to you? Not, God, how could you let this happen? Not, I can't believe this is going on. I can't believe they did this to me. I can't. He's saying, you know what? Maybe God will bless me and maybe I can just eat vegetables and not have to eat the pork or the unclean things that are put at the table if God would just grant me favor. I don't know how somebody does that, but that's his perspective. It says this, but Daniel made up his mind that he would not defile himself with the king's choice food or with the wine which he drank. So he sought permission from the commander of the officials that he might not defile himself. Now God granted Daniel favor and compassion in the sight of the commander of the officials. So he's still trying to be pleasing to God. And his main concern is the Lord, not what he's been through and not what he's being told and not what he has to do. Okay? What kind of man cares about God like that? So this is what it says. So he was granted favor and compassion. God steps into his scenario. And how many of you guys would like God to step into your scenario? The Bible says, if you draw close to me, I will draw close to you. And Daniel has drawn close to God. And now God has stepped in and he's actually began to change the authority's heart. And the commander of the officials said to Daniel, I'm afraid of my lord the king, who has appointed your food and your drink. For why should he see your faces looking more haggard than the youths who are your own age? Then you would make me forfeit my head to the king. But Daniel said to the overseer, whom the commander of the officials had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, that's Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, please test your servants for 10 days and let us be given some vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then let our appearance be observed in your presence. So this commander who's over them is actually going to let them eat vegetables for 10 days at the cost of his own head. That is some favor that the Lord has poured out upon them. What ended up happening for you guys who just like to eat vegetables and do the Daniel fast to try to lose weight is they got fatter. They got fatter than all the other youths who had been eating the king's choice food. So the overseer continued to withhold their choice food and the wine they were to drink and kept giving them vegetables to eat. Here's the next thing God did, and this is what we need from the Lord. Please don't be upset if I'm telling you, if you hear me saying to you, well, your feelings aren't justified or this or that, or this is how you should feel. You feel how you feel. What I'm saying is we need God's intervention. And without your heart aiming at God, there's going to be no intervention, right? And any intervention that we try to do in the natural will be a joke, most likely, and will not have the effect that it needs to have. We need God to step in. Listen to the next thing he does. Because of his heart towards God, and as for these 4 youths, God gave them knowledge and intelligence in every branch of literature and wisdom. Daniel even understood all kinds of visions and dreams. Then at the end of the days which the king had specified for presenting them, the commander of the officials presented them before Nebuchadnezzar. And the king talked with them, and out of all, not one was found like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they entered the king's personal service. You want to talk about given authority. And as for every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king consulted them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and conjurers who were in the realm. And Daniel continued until the first year of Cyrus the king. He had a demonstration, not a proclamation. He didn't go around saying, you guys need to follow the 10 commandments. You know, you guys should really bring the 10 commandments in here. Maybe you should stop sacrificing your babies to gods and start doing the 10 commandments. He began to influence culture the moment that he was given influence because of a power that was demonstrated. To the degree that we receive powers, to the degree that we're honoring God with our hearts. In Daniel 2, this is what it says. Now in the 2nd year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams, and his spirit was troubled, and his sleep left him. Then the king gave orders to call in the magicians, the conjurers, the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans to tell the king his dreams. So he has like a magician's court. Like these people are proudful. They make bold claims about their gods and what they can do, okay? And this king has had enough of their proud proclamations without power. And what he says to them is, I want you guys to interpret this dream. And they say, well, give us the dream. And the king's obviously done this before. And they can interpret it any way they want because, tell me a dream and I'll give you my interpretation. Lord knows if it's right or not. But he says this, he says, no, I'm not going to tell you the dream. If you're as powerful as you say you are, and your gods who they say they are, then why don't you go ahead and tell me the dream? And then you can give the interpretation. And they say, well, who could do this? Who could ever demonstrate that kind of power? No man on earth could ever do that. Only gods could do that. And he says, well, here's the thing. I'm going to kill you all. And so we don't really get the backstory on this, but I'm pretty sure Nebuchadnezzar had enough of people's words and not their demonstration of power. This is what he says. If you do not make the dream known to me, there is only one decree for you. For you have agreed together to speak lying and corrupt words before me until the situation is changed. Therefore, tell me the dream, that I may know that you can declare to me its interpretation. There is not a man on earth who could declare the matter for the king, inasmuch as no great king or ruler has ever asked anything like this of any magician, conjurer, or the Chaldeans. What ends up happening is Daniel's on this council. He's not present at this moment, but he's on this council. So the chief executor goes out and starts rounding up all these wise men. And he gets to Daniel, and Daniel says, what's going on? He says, well, the king's going to kill all of you because you can't give the interpretation. Now, Daniel has demonstrated power. He has demonstrated wisdom. These other knuckleheads on the court that he's on has gotten him into trouble because of their actions. It's actually their fault now that he's going to be executed. So this is what Daniel does. So Daniel went in and requested of the king that he would give him time in order that he might declare the interpretation to the king. Then Daniel went to his house and informed his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, about this matter, in order that they might request compassion from God of heaven concerning this mystery, so that Daniel and his friends might not be destroyed with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. I love this. The mystery was revealed immediately. And what does that say? In the midst of Daniel being 10 times more wiser and 10 times more intelligent than everybody else, pride didn't grab his heart, and he's still walking beside God. And God is hearing his prayers because of the walk that he's walked out with him. Then the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a night vision. Then Daniel blessed the God of heaven. Daniel answered and said this. See, he didn't go to Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego and say, hey guys, did you get the interpretation? I got the interpretation. It's one of my gifts. I have the gift of interpretation. And yeah, did you guys have any dreams last night you want me to interpret? He's not using what God is using him for as a place to rise himself up. God rises himself up. He remains humble. This is what he says. Let the name of God be blessed forever and ever, for wisdom and power belong to him. And it is he who changes the times and the epochs. He removes kings and establishes kings. He gives wisdom to wise men and knowledge to men of understanding. It is he who reveals the profound and hidden things. He knows what it is in the darkness, and the light dwells with him. To thee, O God of my fathers, I give thanks and praise, for thou hast given me wisdom and power. Even now thou hast made known to me what we requested of thee, for thou hast made known to us the king's matter. So Daniel goes to the king. And, this is the king. I don't know. I think I'd struggle with aggression towards this king. And I'd feel like this king would become my target as my enemy. And I would aim all my animosity at this king. This king later on, we see Daniel crying because this king's about to fall. And Daniel cries on his behalf and wishes that he wouldn't reap what he's sown. So Daniel goes in there, and this is what he says to him. He actually reveals the dreams, and he says, do not destroy the men of Babylon. Can I just say this? Those guys are the reason why you got put under execution order. They are worshiping demons. They are the problem. You know what I mean? But Daniel doesn't see it that way because they're actually not. There is one enemy. You have one enemy, an adversary. and it's not a battle against flesh and blood. And he prowls around looking for someone to devour, looking for someone who hasn't casted their anxiety onto the Lord. And Daniel has done that. So people aren't his problem. Even though in the story, it looks like these knuckleheads who make these bold proclamation and lies are the ones who got him into trouble. He actually goes in and says, he doesn't say this, which he could have said, spare me and these 3 guys will be your counsel. We're 10 times better than these guys anyway, according to your words. He could have done it. And he would have been in the right because judgment had been proclaimed. But he spares their lives. The king answered him and said, are you able to make known to me the dream which I have seen and its interpretation? Daniel answered before the king and said, as for the mystery about which the king has inquired, neither wise men, conjurers, magicians, nor diviners are able to declare it to the king. I don't see anybody else in the room. Daniel could have made a big show about this. He could have said, okay, everybody come in, especially those knuckleheads who got me in trouble. I want everybody to see how powerful I am. However, there is a God. That's a good line. However, there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar. He even took his name out of the sentence. He doesn't say revealed to me. He says revealed to King Nebuchadnezzar. What will take place in the latter days. This was your dream and the visions in your mind while on your bed. As for you, O king, while you were on your bed, your thoughts turned to what would take place in the future, and he who reveals mysteries has made known to you what will take place. But as for me, this mystery has not been revealed to me for any wisdom residing in me. Come on. I've never seen such humility being played. Me more than in any other living man, but for the purpose of making the interpretation known to the king, and that you may understand the thoughts of your mind. Can somebody get any lower? He's actually said, you know what? I'm not even going to bring myself up. This is between you and the Lord, and this interpretation is for you. God's not giving you the interpretation to save me or these guys. It's about you, King Nebuchadnezzar, and God, and he's shown you the future. I don't want to tell you what he said. And you know what's really cool in that vision that Nebuchadnezzar had? He reveals the 4 kingdoms, and there's the statue, and it's gold, it's silver, and I think it's bronze, and then iron mixed with clay, and it's a statue, and it's about these different times and seasons with these different armies and how they're going to rule. And there's a stone that has not been cut out that comes down and hits the feet of that statue, and it turns into a mountain, and it's the established kingdom of Jesus Christ, and that established kingdom now lives in you. The very thing that shatters every kingdom actually lives inside of you. And that is our kingdom. Our kingdom is not of this world. It just isn't, guys. This is the king's response. I don't know about you guys, but I'm humbled by my lack of demonstration. The king answered Daniel and said, surely your God is a God of gods and a Lord of kings and a revealer of mysteries, since you have been able to reveal this mystery. Then the king promoted Daniel and gave him many great gifts, and he made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon and chief prefect over all the wise men of Babylon. The same people that he saved are going to try to kill him in a few chapters. Does that sound familiar? And he still doesn't take it personally. And Daniel made requests of the king, and the appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the administration of the province of Babylon, while Daniel was at the king's court. That's Daniel 1 and 2. It is the ultimate demonstration of humility. It is incredible that Daniel was able to pull this off. And do you know where it started? It started in Daniel chapter 1 when his heart was like, how can I still be pleasing to the Lord when it seems like every part of the law has been taken away from me and I can't really participate in these things that I used to participate in? How can I still be pleasing to him? It's amazing to me. And guys, I'm not saying that you can't have opinions. I'm not trying to tell you guys like what to do. What I'm saying is please check in with the truth. Please check in with the truth. You guys have one enemy. There's no political party that's your enemy. People aren't your problem. Right? The God of heaven lives inside of you. You have access to him. If your heart would turn towards him, he wants to do something powerful in your life. It's not too late. It'd be nice if there was a greater demonstration over the last decade in the church. There hasn't been, but it's not too late not to have a demonstration. It's not too late to get our hearts towards God, remain low. And we saw the way that Daniel was used. He removed himself from the equation to bless the authorities of that land. If you guys have anxiety, I want to do this with you right now. If you guys are angry, or if you have fear, I want you just to close your eyes with me right now. I want you to grab a hold of it. I want you to form it into a sentence. What are you angry at, or what are you afraid of? Now I want you to ask this question, why? Why are you angry? Why are you upset? And then whatever that reason is, I want you to take it, I want you to cast it onto God. Just say, God, I'm angry because I feel like my rights are being taken. And I give that to you. Because at the end of the day, I'm here for you, I'm not here for me. Well, God, I'm afraid that I'm going to get sick, and I'm afraid that this virus is going to somehow not leave or something like that. And I cast that onto you. That's not your plan. You're against the COVID virus. If someone with the COVID virus approached you, you would heal them. Because you're a healing God. It's that easy. Because if we don't stay straight in the midst of this, if we don't cast our anxiety onto him, if we don't remember that we have one enemy, one adversary, the devil, we'll end up making people our adversaries. We'll end up dividing this country even harder. And a divided kingdom cannot stand. If you ask me my personal opinion, I don't want to get into opinions, but I'm more concerned politically about a divided nation than I am about a virus. The virus can eventually, we'll find something to heal it, and it'll eventually leave or whatever. But we still have to be here with one another. And we've got to figure out how can we dialogue with each other and how can we still love one another in the midst of this. All right? I bless every person that's been watching. Read Daniel chapters 1 through 6. That's the narration of Daniel. It's a really great story. I bless you guys. Let humility wash over you and let your eyes be focused on him. In Jesus' name, amen.